Hi, I'm Dan Mazzarini of Mazzarini Co. We are full service interior design, mostly based out of New York, but gratefully have a couple of our team members sprinkled across the country too. I have always been creative. I think I'm in that kid camp, right? Where I think as a child, whether it was performing or art, I was always interested in like the creative aspect of things. I also had two creative grandfathers. My one grandfather was a beautiful painter and illustrator, not by trade, just by sort of like hobby. But my Italian grandfather was a tile setter. And so I kind of always grew up with this world of be creative and use your hands and don't be afraid to get a little bit messy or your hands dirty. And so from there, like my mom and I would always do, I grew up in like the Christopher Lowell show era. Do you remember this? So pre Trading Spaces, pre HGTV, I feel like that was where I grew up. So flash forward to Dan Mazzarini with a staple gun with his mom trying to make swags for his bedroom. It was that sort of really important decorating happening in my youth, right? But I went to school for interior design and came to New York directly afterwards, had like 7 interviews and got one job offer. And that was the job that I took. So kind of when I found my calling, kind of didn't look back. And it's been gratefully a great fit for me for 25 years. We were previously BHDM, which stood for Brian Humphrey, Dan Mazzarini. I'm the DM, right? And it's hysterical to me, even with 4 letters, how many times people spelled it wrong. So I was like, well, if you can't spell BHDM, you don't stand a chance with Mazzarini. But Brian, who I started the business with, I actually bought the business from him in its entirety 10 years ago. And so we kept the name for that time. Brian remained a creative consultant. He is 20 years my senior, though, and happily sort of moving toward retirement. And so this just is an evolution of where the company is. And I think, respectfully, we kept a name and respectfully, like, we love him very much, but we decided as a team to sort of double down on the equity that we have in the Mazzarini name. And for me, it was really important, really, really important to make sure we talk about the rest of the team because 60 projects, I don't do this by myself, right? So Mazzarini Co, I think, is an evolution of where we've been, sort of that same great team, new great flavor sort of thing. It really ebbs and flows. I would say it's always 60-40, but in one way or another. And so we are heavy on the commercial right now, but we are busy and everything, gratefully busy, not like busy work busy. And so we do single family and multifamily. And I think both of those are really, when I say they're bespoke, all our projects are bespoke, but they are very personal to people in a way that's different than a hotel, right? If you're working with Marriott on a brand, there's not a checklist, but an ask from them and a brand sort of framework to work within. And so our work kind of undulates. We're kind of heavy in both right now, but I would say we're doing a lot of commercial work coast to coast, and almost all our residential work is in New York City. As many hotels as we've done, our first New York City hotel just opened. It's called M Social. It's down at the Oculus. And we did the lobby, which is interestingly on the 3rd floor, and the restaurant on the 1st floor. So those are really fun and have a great view. Like that Oculus view, I'm like, this is pretty good real estate. So made my job easier, right? I would say this year we cumulatively will have about 60 projects on our roster. 60. Isn't that cuckoo crazy? But some of them are projects that have been ongoing for a couple of years. Some of them have multiple sort of phases. And so the project that I mentioned, the hotel in New York, it was lobby and a restaurant. There are 2 different teams designing and building them. They're like, so even projects like that where it's one building have kind of multiple projects in them, but it's a lot. And it can be a lot of file folders to keep straight. You can call it being in hospitality. You can call it like being Midwestern at heart. I feel like for me, hospitality is all about anticipating people's needs and exceeding their expectations. And so what a great ethos with which to approach any project, right? How do we listen really well? How do we assess? How do we meet someone where they need to be to solve the project, but then go beyond that? For me, that's not I call it hospitality forward, and there are hospitality touch points in all of our projects. But I also think it's just, and I make this joke sometimes, but I think it's being a good business person. Over delivering, you never get complaints, right? This comes from a fear space, but I think our biggest challenge is going to be handling demand. I mean, specifically around skilled trades that people are retiring from. I already mentioned my grandfather was a tile setter, but what an art and what a apprentice-driven knowledge base that requires, right? And I feel like we as a society, oh, I said it, got real deep here. I think as a society, we have sort of undervalued the value of skilled trades. And so I see that as a big problem coming up. And I hope somebody listening out there wants to call me and be like, let's build a guild together. Let's do something that goes into schools and talks to people about there's another path, because I'm also building a house. I will segue this, I promise. I'm also building a house for myself now. And I can tell you that like trades are in such demand to find good and affordable or whatever. The middle one doesn't exist because you can charge whatever you want if you're the best in the business on electrical or wallpapering or. So I think this is our biggest challenge to overcome as an industry. And I encourage the industry to take it on together to make sure that we are saying there's value in this and encouraging more people to use their hands and like think about that as an interesting outlet for the creative arts too. In the residential space, I think that, and this is my boring answer, I think that everybody's like gearing toward durability, right? So a lot of these indoor-outdoor things are great solutions for us, for our clients who have young kids or like to drink red wine or have pets or just kind of live their lives, which is great. And I think that speaks to innovation on how we take new product, new technology, and apply it to lots of different aesthetics. So I'm really happy that I feel like I was the first one to be, not the first, but like long ago to be like, I have a white sunbrella sofa. And people are like, that feels like an outdoor thing. And now why wouldn't you have that, right? I also think though that in the kind of work that our firm does all over the map, I see the crossroad of residential and hospitality every single day, right? And so what we're doing, and one of the trends I would say that we're pulling into residential work, is places for people to plug in and places for people to unplug. And I mean that literally kind of in their homes, right? How many more people are working from home 50% of the time? Well, what's your backdrop? Do you have a place to charge your phone? How was your lighting? Like da-da-da-da-da. It's the problems that we solve for on our commercial work, but now people are in their homes using those as workspaces more. So we want to answer those things and have a home, still be a sanctuary. That's the unplug part of it, but make it functional for the things that people have to do to work from home as well. So that's my unsexy and then my like maybe even unsexier answer. I think that it's something that we haven't done before, right? And the reason for that is I want to learn and I want to think big. And I kind of, after being in business for 15 years and in the profession for almost 25, what I know about myself is naivete is a blessing when it comes to design, because I think having to solve for the nuts and bolts for so long in something that you know how to do, you kind of start there sometimes. So to answer your question, is it a casino? Is it a whole cruise ship? Is it an island? Let's build an island. That sounds crazy, right? Now you know why we need all these skilled trades, right? Because I got to build an island, I guess. But I think that amount of blue sky thinking can be daunting to some, but for me, it's really freeing, because to answer the question, why wouldn't we? To start a project feels like that is how we would approach those kinds of projects. I have a twin sister. That's always a fun one. Some people ask, are you identical? I'm like, I'm gonna let you think about that. But my real surprise is I have recently taken a tap class. Isn't that fun? And it sort of it it was not inspired, but it wasn't not inspired by When Harry Met Sally, right? Where she's like, I'm gonna do the tap class. I'm like, I'm gonna do the tap class. So, and can I tell you, I've taken other classes before, but I think other classes like learning a foreign language or architectural history or even like a wine tasting class, they're joyful, but there's like a education piece to those things that I'm like, well, this might be applicable to my life. I'm here to tell you with certainty that tap will not be a fallback career for me, right? But what it did for me and what it continues to do is it is something I do just for pure joy. I'm terrible at it, right? I thought I'd be so like rhythmically like skilled, and I'm like, oh, it's like also the class that I took, are you ready for this? Was called Absolute Beginner. Not like beginner, like bold underscored absolute beginner. And I'm like, what? Before I even went, I was like, what are they going to do an absolute beginner? Like tell you like, these are your feet? Like, is that where we're starting with this? But to say all of this, it's a surprising thing to some people, but I will tell you what I get out of it is just something that is joyful for an hour, that at the end I'm smiling and laughing. And I'm like, I think we need in a city, in a town, in a time when there's so much happening so fast and so much noise and so much pressure, to find the things that just bring us joy and sort of, escape in a way from those other things. I have a great life. I don't have much to escape from, but it has been such a fun thing to realize that like there are things out there you do just for joy's sake. So find that thing. That's my surprise. I'm a tapper.